And we do have the lights out on the pace car as we get set for our first event of the morning. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. SVRA presents the Brickyard Vintage Racing Invitational, our last day here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, kicking off with the Vintage Classic Enduro. Cars formed up quite nicely as they come around for the green flag start. And we've got it. We've got a green flag. This is a 60-minute enduro, mandatory pit stop.
I'll be right there. Thank you, sir.
And out to an early lead, the 58 being chased by the number 7 Camaro. 58 Cliff White in the Spec Racer Ford, the 7 of Shannon Ivy in the Chevy Camaro SS. The Spec Racer Ford, one of the Group 5 cars, Ivy in the Group 6 Camaro. Started out with 26 competitors entered in the Enduro, and I'm sure due to maybe mechanical issues and certainly the weather situation that we're down to 19 for the green flag start. 58 Cliff White out in front. The 7 of Shannon Ivy. 14A Jerry Robinson, and he's partnered with Bobby Archer. The 25 of Richard Baldwin and the 66 of Tom Clark. Those are your front 5. And as we start working lap 4 of this 60-minute event, we have no change in that front 5.
Timing go to 4, timing go to 4.
Good shot there of the number 17, Tom Breest, in the Porsche 914-6. That's the Zotz Racing entry. One of the Alfa Romeos competing in the Enduro, the number 22, that's Rob Davenport in the Alfa GTV. '58 Cliff White started at the front of the field this morning. It's a 1991 Spec Racer Ford, and he has not relinquished that lead yet. Running order, no change at the front 5. Cliff White in the '58 Spec Racer Ford. The 7 of Shannon Ivey just going by in the number 7, and he's got a Viper alongside of him. Jerry Robinson and Bobby Archer sharing the number 14. 25, Richard Baldwin running in 5th spot. Baldwin driving another Spec Racer Ford as we take a look at the number 14A, Jerry Robinson. Fun times the last 4 days here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The Brickyard Vintage Racing Invitational, presented by Jaguar Land Rover, and once again, they will be unlocking the doors of those F-type sedans about 9 o'clock this morning, and you'll have a chance to experience the exhilaration and the acceleration of that F-type on the autocross course, located up near turns 9 and 10. That's at 5th Street and Shaw. They've got a crew of experienced instructors and very famous drivers that are helping out on the autocross course, putting this program together. Davy Jones And also Roberto Guerrero, past competitors in the Indy 500. Roberto with Formula One experience. Davy Jones has been around the world and spent a lot of laps in cars, including the 24 Hours of Le Mans and also Daytona and Indianapolis. They're the instructors, 21 and over, valid driver's license, closed-toed shoes. You get a couple laps with the instructor and then you swap places. You get in the driver's seat and put that Jaguar F-Type through its paces on the autocross course. It's all complimentary, courtesy of our friends at Jaguar Land Rover. And down near turn 1, they've got an off-road course that is equally as challenging. And once again, an expert crew of instructors that'll give you the finer points of navigating that off-road course. If you're 18 and over and have a valid driver's license, you can get the ride of your life in either the Land Rover or the Jaguar on either the off-road course or the autocross course, respectively. This is all, once again, complimentary, courtesy of Jaguar Land Rover. And we thank them for supporting SVRA and making these vehicles available to our fans. Jerry Robinson now in the 14A, that's the Viper, has gotten around the 7 of Shannon Ivy. And so far through the front 8, make that 9. And why not? We've got another change of position there. We've got a few changes going on as we work our way through the field. Jerry Robinson has moved the number 14A up into second place, dispatching the Camaro of Shannon Ivy to third. Ivy in the number 7 white Camaro as Robinson goes by. Rob Davenport also picking up a spot in the number 22 Alfa Romeo. Seven laps complete, working lap 8 for your leader. And that is the 58 of Cliff White. He's navigating his way through traffic quite handily in that Spec Racer Ford. And just coming out of turn 6, headed down the backstretch now. It is the second car that you can barely see on your screen behind one of the Mustangs. Pulls out to get a little clear view of the straight as it heads down into turn 7, slots in behind the Mustang. And gathering up white is Jerry Robinson in the Viper. So traffic not always your friend. The Mustang moves wide, going through 8, headed towards 9. White picks up a spot, and we look for that Viper to make a move. And he's going to do it down that short chute. We've got first and second on the racetrack, just a few seconds separating them. Heading into turn 12. And now turn 13. Let's see what happens when they get on the straight. Whether the horsepower of that Viper will enable Jerry Robinson to get up there and pass Cliff White in the Spec Racer Ford. He's closing. Robinson's closing. He makes the move. And Robinson, now your leader in the green Dodge Viper. That hard right-hand turn into turn 1. And we'll see what kind of daylight he can put between himself and now the second place car of Cliff White, number 58, the Spec Racer Ford. For those brave souls out there in the grandstands, welcome to Indianapolis Motor Speedway and another day at the beach. If you haven't done so already and you've got your mobile device with you, we do have the SVRA app that's available at no charge from iTunes, the App Store, Google Play, you name it, it's out there. Download that to your phone and you'll have live timing courtesy of SVRA. It'll work for all the SVRA events around the country, of which there are many. We're at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course next week. The SVRA app giving you the timing information that you may like to check out from time to time. 71, Tom Breest, just coming across the start-finish line as we've got the 14A of Jerry Robinson navigating around some traffic, including the number 51. That is Bill Feaster. He's partnered with Dennis out there. Don't have all the names for the co-drivers, but he does make it past and puts another car between himself and White. Cliff White running in second place. Shannon Ivey still hanging on for third in that white Camaro, and we've got Cliff White making a move now, looking to get around one of the back markers. Doesn't want to lose touch with your leader, Jerry Robinson. Robinson navigates past the 15 of Peter McLaughlin in that Lotus 23B. And it looks like White is now caught up. He's just got one car to get past, and that is McLaughlin. Still a lot of moisture out there on the racetrack, but everybody appears to be behaving themselves, which is great. Be very cool to be able to go green flag all the way to checker in this 60-minute event. We're approaching the 20-minute mark, so about a third of the way complete. Robinson in the Viper, White in the Spec Racer Ford, Ivy in the Camaro. '25, Richard Baldwin in another of the Spec Racer Fords. Tom Clark in the Porsche 911. Tom Breest driving a Porsche 914-6. Alan Vincent in a Shelby GT350. McLaughlin in the Lotus 23. 51, Bill Feaster, another Camaro in the field. And completing the top 10, the 11 of Matt Hewson. Hewson with a Shelby GT350. Your leader is working lap number 11. And along with your leader, second and third also on the same lap, as is fourth place Richard Baldwin and that other Spec Racer Ford. Into the pits comes the 15 of Peter McLaughlin in the Lotus 23B. Sterling Mullichek in the number 7B Mustang. And in the number 200, that's Patrick Sessions. Sessions picking up a spot and now shown in 11th. Your leader, the 14A of Robinson, crosses start finish, and chasing him 2.2 seconds back is the Spec Racer Ford number 58 of Cliff White, your early leader. Fifth place, Tom Clark, number 66, getting around Kristen and Rissy Poole in the number 77. That's a Porsche 914-6 being passed by a Porsche 911. The double six of Clark coming around to complete lap number 11, working 12. Chevy versus Ford on the racetrack. Bill Feaster in the number 51 Camaro. And the 11 of Matt Hewson. Hewson in a Shelby GT 350. Used to be race on Sunday, sell on Monday. Not so much anymore. The 51 of Feaster taking that wide approach to turn one. The 11 of Hewson trying to tighten it up a bit, get a bit closer to his competitor. Those two about a second apart as we see your leader, 14A Jerry Robinson. Still has a few seconds in hand over the second place spec racer Ford of Cliff White. For our final day here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we've got a full program once again. The Vintage Classic Enduro going on for 1 hour. That's the race that's happening at the moment. That'll be followed by the historic GT and GTP Enduro, which will be very cool. We've got a good complement of cars entered in that as well. And that'll take place at approximately 9:05 for the start. That's a 90-minute event. The vintage motorcycles are here. And then we'll get into our second round of feature races, beginning with groups 1, 3, and 4. Their combined event scheduled to flag off at 11 o'clock this morning. And once again, weather permitting, it'll be the Indy Legends Oval sessions. They'll get about 20 minutes or so on the oval track, as long as Mother Nature cooperates. So we've got a lot of racing and a lot of cars on course. Hopefully that'll help dry things out, and we can get the Indy Legends out there on the oval. We'll wrap up the day with the TA2 race, the Trans Am race. That happens at 3:30 for their feature event. That's an hour and a quarter, 75 minutes or 100 miles. Yesterday we ran the TA, TA3, and TA4 cars, and they reached the 100-mile mark before the clock ran out for their hour and 15-minute session. Indy Legends Oval session once again at the end of the day, and then we'll bid adieu to Indianapolis Motor Speedway for 2017 and look forward to the return in 2018. Next weekend, SVRA, the Sports Car Vintage Racing Association, will be at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. A very, very busy month of June. Early June in Sonoma at Sonoma County Raceway. You might know it more as Sears Point. And then we spent a couple weeks here in Indianapolis, followed by that upcoming weekend in Mid-Ohio. End of July, we'll be out west at Portland International Raceway. And that'll be the last weekend of July for that race. Driver change happening right now between Jerry Robinson and Bobby Archer. Going to add some fuel to that car. This is what you go through. And we do have the mandatory manning of the fire extinguisher just in case something were to happen. Safety first here on this enduro. Shannon Ivy in the number 7 Camaro.
Car number 17 is entering the paddock.
So Cliff White assumes the lead in the number 58 Spec Racer Ford. The 7 of Shannon Ivy in second place now. The 25 of Richard Baldwin moves up to third. Tom Clark in that double 6 blue Porsche 911 in fourth. And your early leader, the Dodge Viper of Jerry Robinson and Bobby Archer, they're taking care of that pit stop now and driver change. So they've dropped down the running order, shown in 5th place at the moment. Mandatory 5 minutes in the pits. And they will rejoin the race and see if they can take this one to the checkered flag and come home first. The double 7, Kristen and Rissy Poole coming in for their pit stop. That's the Porsche 914-6 that's been out since the drop of the green. There's 58, Cliff White, your leader. White now closing on the 22, Rob Davenport in the Alfa Romeo GTV. Through turns 8 and 9. This over in the area of turn 2 of the Indy Oval. Comes back into the infield section, turn 12 and 13. This is where you'll find the entrance to the paddock as well, or the hot pits. No pit stop this time. It's around turn 14 and staying down low, wanting to keep some water on those rain tires. Got to keep them cool, don't want them wearing out. So it's 58, Cliff White. His best lap so far, a 1 minute 48 flat. Fast lap of the race so far belongs to the number 14A Dodge Viper of Jerry Robinson, a 146.9. Second quick, the Camaro of Shannon Ivy at a 47.8. And then we have that 148 flat set by current leader Cliff White. So 5 minutes does go by slowly. For the 14 of Jerry Robinson, I'm sure they're ready to get back on the track. And there's a long shot of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. You see that corner, turn 6. And off in the distance, you saw turn 3 of the oval. '22 Rob Davenport. Davenport shown in 10th place. And it looks like a problem for the 66 of Tom Clark, as Clark has overshot turn 1. There is a way to re-enter the racetrack there, but I'm not sure if he has mechanical problems or what the issue is. And it looks like he may have just turned it off. So problems for the 66 of Clark. He was running in 4th place. Headed down pit road, your early leader, Bobby Archer, behind the wheel of the 14A Viper. Also coming in, car number 11, Matt Hewson and Gary Moore.
Verbal warning, speeding 40 mile an hour in the pits. Roger that. Verbal warning. Let me know when you do that. Thank you, sir.
77 Kristen Rissy Poole now returning to the track in that Porsche 914-6 as we view the 58 of Cliff White, our leader. You see him staying way over on the front straight, over where the water is. Doesn't want to jeopardize those tires. He's, I'm sure, thinking about running this entire race on the set of tires that are on the car, and should be no problem. We've got about 24 minutes remaining in this 60-minute race. Focused on your leader, the 58 of Cliff White in the purple Spec Racer Ford.
Okay, thank you, sir. We have a visual on it.
B, Alan Vincent picks up a spot, gets into 5th, and that's courtesy of Tom Clark, who's parked his Porsche number 66 out there beyond turn 1. Alan Vincent in the number 18B, the 200 of Patrick Sessions. Tom Breest, number 71, that yellow Porsche 914-6, also moves up, courtesy of Clark's exit from the race. Breest now shown in 4th. Got a pair of Spec Racer Fords running 1st and 3rd, and in the middle of that sandwich, the number 7 Camaro. Cliff White is your leader, Shannon Ivey in 2nd, and Richard Baldwin, the number 25 Spec Racer Ford, in 3rd. Your leader, the 58 of Cliff White, pulling into the hot pits. And it looks like the plan is for White to drive the entire stint, the entire hour. Still required, though, to make that mandatory pit stop. Peter McLaughlin in the number 15 Lotus 23. Very smooth handling car, the Lotus 23. And the 18B of Alan Vinson rolling down the hot pit road. '06 Scott Birkland getting around the double seven. Birkland in the Porsche 911 is currently shown in 7th place, although Rob Davenport in that 22 Alfa Romeo looking to change that, as Davenport is now moved into 8th. Your early leader, the 14 of Jerry Robinson and Bobby Archer, that car's in 11th place now and trying to claw its way back to the front of the field. With a lot of these cars in front still having to make their pit stop, we're going to see some juggling of the running order quite a bit in these remaining 20 minutes. Car number 2, Alan Vinson back on track. The 90 of David Lasco. Nice looking Mustang. It's a 1966 Shelby Mustang. And a waving black flag for the number 14 of Jerry Robinson and Bobby Archer. I believe it's Archer that's behind the wheel now, as they did come into the pits and make that driver change. And slowly going down the pit road, number 7, Shannon Ivey. Ivey working his way backwards in the running order with this pit stop. Moves the 25 Spec Racer Ford of Richard Baldwin up into 2nd. The 71, the yellow Porsche 914-6 into 3rd. 200, Patrick Sessions in the Shelby GT350 in 4th. And 5 minutes are up. The 58 of Cliff White still shown as your leader at the moment. That should change on the next lap. Ivy now re-entering the racetrack. And White is headed that direction. Mandatory pit lane speed is very important. Also important is your speed in and around the paddock area. We've had some close calls with crew members and drivers on scooters and mules, golf carts. So please keep in mind there are kids out there, there are other people out there. This is Father's Day, and we don't want any kind of adverse situation to make your weekend something you wouldn't want to tell your kids about or your friends. So please keep those speeds down in the paddock area if you're on a scooter, a golf cart, a mule, what have you, any other kind of four-wheeler. And the 14A, Bobby Archer brought in for a 1-minute penalty, and that was for cutting the course, as I understand it. So they're holding him for 1 minute. And then let him return to the course. So that'll put a hitch in their get-along. New leader, the 71 of Briest in the Yellow, Zotz Racing Porsche 914-6. The 200 of Patrick Sessions in the Shelby Mustang up to second. And then it's the 06 Porsche of Scott Birkland that sits in third as we go through pit stops and cars coming back on course looking to work their way forward through the running order. Cliff White's made his pit stop. Shannon Ivy's been in. Robinson's been in. McLaughlin's been in. And it looks like the 14 is now free to go about its business, serving that 1 minute penalty at pit entrance. The 11 of Matt Hewson and Gary Moore getting around the number 25. 25, the Spec Racer Ford of Richard Baldwin. And your leader in the pits as well, the 71 of Tom Breest. That black number 8, that is Marcus Pillion, sharing the driving with Lonnie Unser. In car number 8, the Porsche 356 Coupe. Trailing the 7B, Sterling Mullichek in the Mustang. Lonnie Unser, wife of Bobby Unser, and she waved the checkered flag yesterday at the end of the Pro-Am race and just had a great time up in the flag stand. So cars working their way back through the field following the pit stops. The 71 of Tom Breest is still shown in the lead in the number 71 Porsche 914-6. The 7 of Shannon Ivy, that's the white Camaro, back into second place, followed by the 58 of Cliff White, the 22 of Rob Davenport. Some pit stops going on. The 18B of Elan Vinson. Also the 25 of Richard Baldwin. Historic GT, GTP Enduro entrance to pre-grid, please. Historic GT and GTP Enduro participants, please make your way to pre-grid. So those pit stops do work their magic. There's your leader, the number 7 of Shannon Ivy, and right there behind him, second place, the number 58 of Cliff White in the purple Spec Racer Ford, Ivy in the white Camaro. Both drivers trying to keep those tires cool. They've just got a few more minutes to go, as we're showing about 10 minutes remaining. And only 1.3 seconds separating first from second. In the race for 7th, the number 11 of Matt Hewson and Gary Moore have that spot. The 200 of Patrick Sessions would still like to get it, and they're just separated by 5 seconds, so not a lot considering there's still 10 minutes left. Your leader on the back section, the number 7 of Shannon Ivy, shared that car yesterday with Johnny Unser in the Pro-Am race. Pretty much the signature event here at the Brickyard Vintage Racing Invitational. 33 past competitors in the Indy 500 and 1 Brickyard 400 winner, paired up with amateur drivers for a 50-minute race with a mandatory 5-minute pit stop. Working their way back up through the order, Shannon Ivy still your leader. And out on the front straight, still being dogged by the 58 of Cliff White. 2 seconds separating the two. And roughly 6 minutes remaining. Richard Baldwin in the 25 sitting third, the 71 of Tom Breest in fourth, 51 Bill Feaster in fifth, and the number 11 Mustang of Matt Hewson and Gary Moore shown in sixth. So Shannon Ivy, your leader. The 58 of Cliff White is in second. The 25 of Richard Baldwin in third. As far as the lap count goes, that's where it's really going to matter. Ivy and White are working lap number 27. There's less than 5 minutes remaining. We've got the cars that are in third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Make that third through eighth, working lap number 25. So they've got their work cut out for them if they hope to change the running order, especially at the top. I think that Ivy and White are pretty much secure in their front spot, but we could still see some changes in the race between third and eighth. No change so far as we look at the leader, Shannon Ivy, and trying to run him down, and he raced that 2-second gap, is the 58 of White. White there just 2 seconds back. As they work their way around turn and come into turn 12. Hard on the brakes. Look at that front end dip on that Camaro, and Ivy really has his work cut out for him as that car is hard to stop. Look at the gap now. It's shrunk quite a bit. Both drivers searching for some water to keep those tires cool. The gap now down to 1.1 second. And they will be getting a last lap indicator in may well happen on this next lap, as we're showing less than 3 minutes remaining. And once White sees that, he's going to have to get on the gas. Ivy hard on the throttle. Coming into turn 7, hard on the brakes as well. Takes that car through its paces. Cliff White closes up a bit, and you see the back end of that Camaro step out again as he goes through turn 9. Ivy knows that White's coming. Into turn 12. Hard on the brakes once again. Yeah, our flagman's got the last lap board up. The double L should be coming out this time. They're on the front stretch, and indeed it is. The last lap indicator being shown to both Shannon Ivy and Cliff White. Ivy's got this one chance to stay ahead. They've got traffic ahead of them. White closes up once again as they enter turn 1. And we'll have to see what that car is that's just in front of Shannon Ivy. One of the Mustangs. And I'm sure Ivy is just hoping that he doesn't have to deal with him, or if he does, it's right here on the back straight. Ivy's hard on it. They're side by side, and it looks like Ivy's going to make that pass with no problem. White has yet to arrive to make the pass on the number 2 of Alan Vinson. Vinson in 17th at the moment. And it may be that Cliff White is going to have to settle for second on this. Looks for a spot, gets it, goes in low, and there goes Ivy getting really loose. He wants to put as much daylight as he can between himself and the second place Spec Racer Ford of Cliff White, as he knows that the handling on that little Spec Racer Ford is a bit better on that big Camaro. And look at how White's closed up. They come down now. Headed down the front straight. This is where it's going to matter right here. Checkered flag is out. I'm guessing it's Ivy. Yes, it is, as he's able to pull out a gap with that big V8 over the Spec Racer Ford. But a great race and decided by only 1.2 seconds in our 60-minute race with Shannon Ivy in the Group 6 Trans Am Camaro taking the win. 29 laps complete. Also with 29 laps complete, the 58 of Cliff White.
Certainly a contrast in cars and driving styles over the last few laps of that one. What an exciting finish.
That it was. They had a great battle, and so much happens with that 5-minute pit stop, your timing of that, and White just able to close up there at the end. Still waiting for the remainder of the cars to come across and settle up as to who finished where. In the lap count, we've got the 25 of Richard Baldwin completing 28 laps and finishing third. The 51 of Bill Feaster finishing fourth. And rounding out the top 5, the number 71, Porsche, in fifth. Ivy giving a wave. I'm not sure if that was to the corner worker or to Cliff White as far as the race that they had. But a good finish and a close one after 60 minutes. Coming up next, it's the 90-minute historic GT and GTP Enduro.